Hey guys, thanks for stopping on in for today's video where we're going to be talking about the 2018 Senate election in the state of Pennsylvania. You have on the Democratic side incumbent Bob Casey and challenger on the Republican end Lou Barletta. Currently in the state of Pennsylvania, you have one Democratic senator who's Bob Casey, and then the other senator is a Republican in Pat Toomey. So this is a state that can elect either a Democrat or a Republican, as we've seen historically. So in this video, I'm going to be taking a look at the recent polling data and also looking at historical election results and taking a look at what happened in this year's Republican primary for their Senate nomination and how it's not looking great, at least at this point, for the Republican Lou Barletta. So starting off here, Bob Casey, of course, he has that incumbency advantage in a state like Pennsylvania, which tends to lean in a little bit more of a Democratic direction. He also has that inherent advantage built in to this race. We can see that in the polling data. However, this polling data doesn't have huge sample sizes, so the margin of error is a little bit larger than you'd like to see. The most recent poll that we had just about a week ago shows you 472 sample size there and a very large margin of error of about 6.5 percentage points, but still Bob Casey ahead by 17 points in that poll. And overall, the average of these two polls over the last couple of months have him right around that 16-17 point lead. If he actually ended up going to win by this margin, that would be extremely impressive. I'd see him winning this seat. Of course, he has a lot of built-in advantages running here against Lou Barletta, but in the state of Pennsylvania, winning by that kind of margin would be a pretty impressive feat, and you'd have to have a really tremendous Democratic turnout for that to be the case, and certainly could definitely be heading in that direction. So we're going to go through a lot of different data points that I'm going to pull up here. So starting off here, we're going to go back to the 2012 Pennsylvania Senate election. That's when Bob Casey won here with a little over 3 million votes, and he beat the Republican senator here, Tom Smith, by about 9 percentage points. So a pretty respectable result there in the state of Pennsylvania. It was a presidential year, which tends in general to help the Democratic candidates a little bit. This is a midterm year, so that will factor into this whole thing. But moving on to our next data point, I'd bring up the Morning Consult approval ratings of the senators, and we can see here the Republican Pat Toomey from Pennsylvania has about a 9 percentage point positive spread on his approval. And Bob Casey, about a 15 percentage point positive spread there. So the Democratic senator having a little bit better spread between approval and disapproval. And that's certainly a positive sign for the Democrats in the state of Pennsylvania, but this isn't an overwhelmingly positive number. Being plus 15, it's respectable, but it's not in the upper tier by any means of senators and how they poll in their home state in terms of approval. But moving on here, we'll look at the 2018 primary result. Bob Casey ran unopposed as the incumbent. On the Republican side, you can see here about 681,000 people casted a vote in that Republican primary for the U.S. Senate. And we're going to compare these numbers to historical results and show you another reason why it's really bad, at least in terms of that Republican enthusiasm and how they're turning out. So we go back to the last Senate primary, which was in 2016 for the Republicans, and that was a presidential year, so of course you're going to expect much larger turnout, and you can see that with 1.3 million votes with Pat Toomey running unopposed. But I wanted to find a little bit more relevant data, so I tried to find the most recent midterm Republican primary in the Senate, and it wasn't in 2014, so I had to go back to 2010, and I'm going to pull that number up here so you can see 820,000 votes cast back in the 2010 Republican primary on the Senate side. And of course, 2010 was a year that you had a lot more enthusiasm on the Republican side because the Democrats controlled the presidency, the House of Representatives, and the Senate. And we're in the flip position right now with the Republicans controlling those three areas. So you're having that shift over to the Democrat side in terms of their increased enthusiasm. We can see that decrease in enthusiasm on the Republican side with 680,000 votes in this primary compared to about 820,000 votes 8 years ago in that midterm election. So about 140,000 vote difference, which is quite significant. And also, the last piece of data I want to show here is this recent polling result that we got from NBC News. And you can see here the percentage expressing the highest level of interest in the midterm elections. And we can clearly see that enthusiasm gap here. The Democrats are at 63% of the highest level compared to Republicans are down at 47%. So that 16-point gap in expressing a highest level of interest is going to be working in the Democrats' favor as we head towards these midterm elections. So just looking at the primary results, we're seeing that in this enthusiasm gap with a big backdraw here in the Republican 2018 primary voter turnout. And then just looking at the polling data, you can see Bob Casey, the incumbent, has a big advantage here in the couple of polls that we've gotten, even though, like I said, these are pretty small sample size polls with larger margin of error than you'd like to see, but still, nonetheless, on the Democratic side, you'd like to see your candidate ahead by these kind of spreads in these polls that we're getting out here. So that's basically all that I wanted to touch on in this video, taking a look at some polling data, some historical election results, and just giving a prediction right now. It seems pretty straightforward that the incumbent Democrat, Bob Casey, is going to have a great shot at going on to win re-election, and that's where we're putting our prediction here, siding with the Democrat in this instance. So thanks, guys, for stopping on in. You can leave a comment about this particular race if you want down in the comment section. Click a thumbs up on the video if you like it, subscribe for more, and you can check out all of our matchup and prediction videos over on our YouTube channel. Thanks, guys, for stopping on in. We hope to see you back here for our next video. Bye.